What screams peaks in high school? A teacher I had in high school, who very obviously was only a teacher because it allowed him to be an assistant football coach. He taught computer literacy by having us read in groups from a textbook, wasted 2 class periods telling us about his story. From being an elementary school kid picked on by the teachers, to being the local high school, same school he taught at, football star, and thereafter returning to his elementary school to call out the teachers in front of the students. Dude definitely peaked in high school. Fortunately, he's still there, continuing to wear your high school ring or Letterman jacket. I got a high school ring. I wore it for approximately 2 months until graduation. I still have it, but what the hell do I do with it now? I don't have kids and no one else gives a crap. I declined a college ring for the same reason. It's just tacky and I'm not going to wear it. What the hell are those? Sincerely, a European. Attending high school football games 10 years later and expecting the coach to invite you to the sidelines. Or showing up to practices and telling a bunch of random kids about catching the game-winning touchdown in a random game. In football, I had a coach that would tell us in literally every motivational team speech before a game that we would be talking about football for years to come. So make it a memorable game. Every time I would think I'll forget this game tomorrow and when I graduate I will probably forget your name. Well, I guess he was right. Half the guys on the team still wear their jerseys, coach football in some way, form or another, and still talk about our 2-9 wins from junior year. Bonkers. Still wish my school had cross country. My sister went on a date with a guy and he spent the whole time talking about how cool he was in high school. He was like 30. Chip Matthews? Letterman jackets on college campuses. Troy Barnes? I had no idea what to do with my jacket after high school. On one hand, it was a really nice jacket. On the other, why would I want everyone to know I lettered in band in high school? Mine lived in a closet for more than a decade before one of my younger cousins was at my high school. She lettered, but her parents couldn't afford to buy her one. They are outrageously expensive. So I gave her mine. They switched the letter. She lettered in a sport cause she's cooler than me, and it got worn for a few more years. Which is cool. People trying to relive their life experiences through their children. Like forcing a daughter to do pageants, or a son to play on the football team. My dad likes to tell the same high school stories non-stop, but never has anything to say about life after he graduated. He even has a wooden trunk full of high school relics that I'm not allowed to even look at, because he's afraid I'll destroy something. My dad didn't play football in high school. He wrestled instead, and so me being me, I chose to do football first, then I ended up quitting and joining wrestling, and my dad still wants me to do football. I'd say it's the opposite of yours. People trying to relive their life experiences through their children. I'm almost 40 and see this in many of my former high school classmates who stayed in or moved back to our hometown to have kids. I had fun in high school sports, band, and had a few good teachers, but just can't imagine making the decision to experience the same Friday night football games, soccer games, and concerts with many of the same people, this time from the parent POV. I get that familiarity is nice and perfectly fine for a lot of people, but it blows my mind to know people who have the means to see their world outside where they grew up but choose not to, literally just going back to their high school on a regular basis. I'd make an exception for if you're going to volunteer help kids. If you're showing up because you miss the place. Definitely. One guy who went to my high school before kept showing up during recess and getting drunk on school grounds. They called the police on him several times. I had classes with his younger sister who idolized him. Didn't go well for her. She eventually had a pretty bad reputation and turned into a massive bully. Grown people who still try to create teen drama, making an issue out of every non-issue that other people just ignore. Because they've grown up and they know the world doesn't revolve around them. Especially if it happens at their place of work where they should remain professional. But they feel the need to be the diva and or the mean girl. Or they're always the victim. Refusing to take any accountability and relying on gossip and baseless rumors as evidence. Well, at least that's the kind of people I experienced in high school. And when I see people who still behave like that, I think that they peaked when they were 16. And then got stuck there. I unfortunately have met some when I worked in retail. Any stories? Cough. Gabby Hanna. Cough. Grown women gossiping about minors. It's pretty common in small towns. They want to know who's sleeping with who does drugs, who drinks and parties. Constantly talking about teenagers and knowing all about high school drama screams peaks in high school. It's honestly kinda sad because they're so miserable with themselves and life. Or they feel insane jealousy over anyone younger. Like any young woman is a hussy and out to get their man. If Coach Wilder put me in, we Wilder one state, no doubt in my mind, I'd be living in a big ole mansion somewhere with my soulmate, working for an MLM, especially when they post endlessly on Facebook promoting their business with random capitalized words and occasionally sending a PM begging you to buy their crap. Yep. And they're all trying to sell stuff to everyone in their hometown, which is a dwindling pool of potential customers as more people GTFO over the years, until they're left trying to sell stuff to each other. Are anti-MLM, bragging about your hookups in HS when you're 37. Carla was the prom queen. Hopefully the hookups were while they attended, and not current hookups at the local high school. I have an older cousin that gets immediately defensive and talks negative whenever she hears about anyone who is doing well for themselves. Her mom always talked her up in high school about how much of a good student she was. Whenever anyone else is successful, she gets jealous instead of being happy for them. Example, when I got into nursing school, she talked down on the school I got into. Note, she didn't make it into nursing school and went on a different career path. But damn, grow up and get over it. The world doesn't center around you, other people can be successful too. Narcissistic personality disorder. Quite common for children who are raised on a pedestal. This could also be a symptom of depression. Chronically depressed individuals tend to take other successes personally since they feel so terrible about themselves. Talking about high school like it was the best of times, 25 years later. Yeah, high school was fun. I had some good times. But 31 years later, I wouldn't trade my current life for going back to then if you paid me. Yeah, it's sad to see people who apparently have nothing after high school to be proud of. They might have been better off not graduating then. Never shuts up about the football game he won 5 years ago. Marrying the prom queen and still telling people about it 20 years later. Even though you're divorced. Commenting on their high school's significant other's Facebook photos. Dennis Reynolds. He hasn't even begun to peak. Let me tell you something. I haven't even begun to peak. And when I do peak, you'll know. Because I'm gonna peak so hard that everybody in Philadelphia's gonna feel it.